Alright, so today we'll be reacting to one of Timmy FMB's videos. Go like and subscribe to his channel. He's awesome. Let's go. What happens to peterbot gets banned?
Peterbot ritual cold. Peterbot reclaims his title. Records being set here, MMA from Peterbot and Pollo, baby.
However, as some of you may know, peterbot has recently fallen into some controversy that could potentially
I'm not gonna try to talk too much.
The biggest tournament of the year. So today I'm going to break down what happens to peterbot's trio if he gets banned, and who I think has the best chance of taking home the FNCS Global Championship trophy. Peterbot, along with his trio Cold and Ritual, have absolutely destroyed the competition this year, getting second place in Major 1, first place in Major 2, and first place once again just a few days ago in Major 3.
He got to see the side shot come through, and Yamzo tags him once. Yamzo's gonna get the second two. The jump shot, he's invisible. Peterbot can't be seen, can't be tracked, misses the siphon. Yamzo's still in the game.
Nice.
Ritual stands and wins the game by a heel off in the end. And just like that, Jacob, they do it again.
Peter's crazy, bro. Peter's crazy.
A video of peterbot got leaked from a couple years
I've
back,
seen this video.
He was saying some pretty inappropriate
It's not
things.
good.
I'm not going to go into the details of the video because honestly, I don't want this to be a drama channel. I'm only bringing this up to give you guys context as to why we're talking about this in the first place. Anyways, since this happened, the internet is kind of blown up about it, and there's one specific question the Fortnite community has been asking. Will Peter be banned from globals? Obviously, it wasn't a good look for him, but at the same time, this was a few years ago, and he was a kid, so if he's really grown up and grown from this, I think he deserves a chance to play. That being said, it's not really my decision or any of yours. It's really up to Epic Games and the Fortnite overlords. And if for some reason they do decide that what he did was bad enough to be banned, we would have one of the first peterbot-less lands in 3 years. So what exactly would that look like? Well, first of all, Cold and Ritual would now be down a member of their trio. And I went through all of the official FNCS 2025 rules to see what would happen if peterbot was disqualified. And the crazy thing is they don't have any official clear rules for what would happen if someone gets disqualified this far into the season. So after reading the entire rulebook and doing my best to deduce what actually
Reading
would
the whole
happen,
thing, I can
I'm going to
never.
throw out 2 different theories as to what I think would happen if peterbot gets banned. The first option, which is the most unfortunate of all of them, is that they wouldn't be allowed to fill peterbot's spot. And although this sounds a little bit drastic, it is possible because we've seen something like this happen before. Back in 2023, Epic Games held the yearly global event in Copenhagen, Denmark. And there was a ton of drama behind the scenes, specifically around one duo. Bucky and his duo Okus were able to qualify during Major 3 for the Global Championships in 2023.
Thanks, Timmy, for borrowing my
Oh my god, we qualified! Oh my god! We qualified! Oh my god, I'm going to Copenhagen!
But unfortunately, once Bucky
He goes to
arrived in
Copenhagen and
Copenhagen,
gets
he wasn't there for long. As he talked about in my interview with him, he was randomly disqualified from participating in the tournament.
I feel bad for Bucky, bro. Randomly disqualified.
Conduct rule, no toxic behavior.
Yeah, I was disqualified for, making inappropriate comments about Epic employees and women on stream.
This happened just moments before Bucky was supposed to compete, and unfortunately his duo Okus was left to go out completely alone.
Imagine having to go out on your own. Look, he has no duo. I wonder if he probably finished last place then.
I can't watch this group.
And of course, as you can imagine, Okus would finish dead last because he's playing as a solo against 49 of the best duos in the world. However, if we look back to the situation with Bucky, he got banned right before the tournament happened. However, in this case, we'd know at least a few weeks ahead of time if Peter was going to get banned. So in this case, it means they could probably have a backup player step in. So, as I said, there's not an exact rule that describes what happens if someone gets disqualified. However, there are backup players in case somebody gets sick. Specifically, Epic will pick players that are from the same region where the tournament is being hosted. In this case, that's EU. The reason that they do this is so that they don't have to pay to fly out players from NA or OCE if there is a situation where they need to use a backup player where the tournament is taking place in Europe. I'll throw up the entire list of players here on the screen, but there are a few players that I want to highlight as being top choices if Cold and Ritual need to pick somebody. In my personal opinion, I think Teeny is the best player on this list who hasn't qualified for globals, with Fadil and Trulex being two of my other favorite players that I would pick. However, every single player on this list would probably do a great job filling in. That being said, none of them are peterbot. As we all know, Peter is the best player in the world, and I'm interested to see what would actually happen if peterbot did have a Phil come in to play with his trio. And on top of these players not being as skilled as peterbot, it's a huge disadvantage to play with somebody you don't know because your chemistry will be way thrown off. That being said, if peterbot is out of his trio, in my opinion, I think it would be safe to say that Cold and Ritual will have a slim to little chance of actually winning. And that means in this hypothetical case, everyone else for the first time in the last couple of years will actually have a very good chance at getting first place at Globals. So let's talk about what would actually happen in this scenario. Who are the best trios from all the regions across the world? Well, in my opinion, I think the answer is pretty obvious, and it comes down to just 2 or 3 trios that I'll go over right now.
Poyo trio. I knew it.
Is peterbot's X duo, his biggest rival, Poyo.
The difference
That is a good trio.
14 points. That only 14 points was the difference. Congratulations to your Major 1 champions. Agers, Acorn, and Poyle. 14
Poyo? Is that what he said?
separated that win.
Poyo, along with his trio of Acorn and Agers, are probably the best trio outside of Peter and his team. I mean, if we look at this past Grand Finals, it's obvious that they can at least go toe-to-toe and keep up with peterbot's team. And don't just sit around waiting for peterbot to get banned to see if these guys have a chance, because even if Peter and his full trio is playing, I think we're going to have one of the more competitive Grand Finals that we've had in a few years, specifically because of Poyo and his trio. However, there is another trio that I want to talk about, and they're not from NA Central. See, I do this thing on my channel where I tend to talk about mostly North American players, and honestly, it's because that's where most of my viewers are from, but I wanted to give a huge shout out to probably one of the best trios in the world, from EU, Vino, Lixie, and Vika. With EU being
I don't really like Vino's good. He's really good. I just don't like him.
Played 6th in
I don't know.
Major 2 and got 2nd in Major 3. Not to mention that all 3 of these guys have ample experience playing at LAN events. On top of that, they have another secret weapon, which is the fact that they already live in Europe. They wanted to deal with multi-day. Let's see what deliciousness
The goofy ads are messing up my video.
and show up to be their best. So with a ton of FNCS wins under their belt, I think this is one of the best teams in the world, and we definitely have to keep our eye out for them. In addition to
For real.
our European team, there are also some other teams on other regions that have a really good chance of getting a win. First, I want to go to Brazil to talk about the trio of King, Phaser, and Fazin. These guys have
I don't like watch Brazilian players. They're good though. Like, I don't know. I'm just not a Brazilian fan. I don't know.
And placed 5th during Major 2.
I know
And
King.
because they did so
King is
well,
like
they decided to
Brazilian.
fly
He's
to
really
NA
good.
Central to try and qualify for the Grands here in America. Not only did they qualify, but the 3 of them placed 9th on the region, which is pretty insane considering they've never even played on North America before. On top of all of this, you guys may remember King from the
Yeah, I knew it was that
Cup
King
years
from the
ago,
World
where he
Cup.
won over $1 million at just 13 years old.
13?
On top of that, he has a
Wow.
following of 1.2 million followers, and this guy actually has a couple of wins under his belt, unlike his NA counterpart, Clips. And by having some FNCS wins, I think he has won 6 times. Up until
6 is not bad.
That means he would have been
But
tied with peterbot. Of course, the Brazilian region isn't quite as competitive, but I do think these guys have an incredible chance of winning, especially if peterbot isn't able to play. And Brazil isn't the only region we need to talk about. Because as many of you
OC.
know, there is one player on the OCE region that definitely has a chance.
I don't even know why I said
of
OC. It's
new
OC.
players to shame. And his
OC.
name is
Alex.
Many people on my channel love Alex, and this video
Alex is
one
awesome.
of the most popular of all time. Alongside of his trio of Anon and Resigns, Alex has been absolutely dominating the OCE region. Although they would only finish second in Major 1, Alex would get first place in both Major 2 and Major 3 of OCE Grand Finals. Although he hasn't had the best performances at LAN so far, I think he finally has a trio that has the same level of skills as he does, and he'll be able to put on an absolute show when they get to France. The craziest part out of all of this that many people don't know
French
is that
people
Alex
are
actually
like,
has more
I've never played with a
FNCS
French
wins
person.
than
I've only
any
heard them,
other
like, I don't
player
know.
in the history of Fortnite. Peterbot only has 6 wins, as does King. However, Alex has 7 different FNCS first place titles, not to mention at least 3 second places. But heading back to NA for a second, there's one last team that I want to talk to you guys about, who I think probably have a great chance of winning, with or without Peterbot in this competition, and that is Bolts, Kanata, and Rapid. These guys have been constantly overshadowed all season by Peterbot
Bolts,
and
Kanata,
Oyo,
yeah,
but
that's
they've been
actually
placing insanely well all
best.
season. With a
My
sixth
favorite
place
version
in
of that whole
Major
trio is
1, a
probably
seventh place in
Kanata.
Major 2, and then a 3rd place in Major
Then it's
3.
Rapid, then
This
it's Bolts.
is definitely a team we need to look out for. While I think there are a few teams that have done statistically better than these guys, we all know that Bolts and Rapid have really good chemistry, and Kanata is one of the best players in Fortnite history who has the most FNCS Grand Finals under his belt.
Kanata is probably the best. I don't know how Peter is considered the best, bro. Like, it should be Kanata.
Said, I really hope that
or somebody else.
Get banned because I want to see the best players play. And if we're looking at this objectively, I think Peterbot made a huge mistake, but it was a couple years ago when he was a kid. And if he has changed like he said he has, then I think he deserves every chance to prove that he's a better person now. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas
I did, Timmy.
I should do next, comment that down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and click right here if you want to watch another one of my videos right now.
Alright, guys, that's the end of today's video. That was a crazy video. W Timmy. I'll be watching more of these. Probably reacting to more of these. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.